Welcome to Brightly You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul-driven advice and topics to help you live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, Tracy.
So we are so in sync today.
We are.
So a couple shows back, we talked about how we took an unplanned spring break. And this evening, if you're watching us on YouTube, we look identical to the last two episodes because we're putting some more in the bank after that. We're
making an investment.
A bit longer of a chit chat. And so this is actually, although we're now 3 episodes in, this is the first time we've talked in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
More than like a quick personal touch base. And it was so funny to get some text messages from you today because we both changed our minds about what we wanted to talk about for past and current episodes. And it was like the same stuff. Like,
so Tracy, we both talk during the shows, obviously, but one of us
talks way more than the other
topic. No, one of us chooses a topic. And then we're responsible for the show notes of that topic. It's like a brief outline,
right? Like, we each take turns brainstorming kind of where we want to go.
I checked today and Tracy had changed hers to Moxie. And then I was reading through some of the show notes and I went, oh, well, I really like to talk about Moxie, but I was going to do self-confidence or like maybe change it a little bit.
And that was Moxie to you, or
yes, it seemed too similar to me, but then.
And my initial reaction was like, no, these are 2 topics. What are you talking about?
I know.
So let's talk about self-confidence. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, the first thing that happens to me when I hear self-confidence, it's like I kind of go, oh, yawn. Well, I feel like it's like, how many times can we be hit over the head with self-confidence?
It's me with the self-love topic.
Yes.
That it's just like, yes, we've been there, we've done it. It's embedded in the overarching conversation. What's next, right?
Like, and I think too, sometimes people like there's self-esteem and self-confidence. And I feel like you don't
wait, they're different
often. Yes, they are different. You're hilarious. I feel like self-esteem, you don't hear as much anymore. It's more the self-love type of thing, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So self-esteem is like, I like myself, right? Like I'm a good human being. I like myself. And in fact, we as kids, I know I shared this before. Mom shared the affirmation, I like myself unconditionally. And we just thought it was hilarious. And we changed it to love and we'd sing it and just make fun of it.
What's his name? Stuart Smalley on SNL.
Yes. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it.
People like
me.
Which is, I don't know why that was peak comedy humor in the late 80s because it's actually really true.
It is. So, so you've got self-esteem. I like myself. Then you have like the opposite is low self-esteem, just dissatisfaction, or it can even be self-pity. And I was reading my mom's first book, and in it she wrote, self-pity becomes our biggest indoor sport. And I went, oh, wow.
Joan, like, wow. She'd be popular on TikTok.
Yeah. Wouldn't she? Oh my gosh.
She would dominate.
Kill it. She would kill it. So anyways, self-confidence to me comes from like a proof of concept. Like if I've succeeded at something in the past, I feel confident that I'll succeed now. Plus, I feel like you also add in other people's good opinions of you. Hey, you did really good with that thing over there. And then you're like, okay, I have their approval. I can feel confident about that.
Ooh, so you saying that makes me realize self-confidence to me is when I don't think about what I'm doing. when I don't overanalyze what I'm doing or not doing and how to do it and how people, not necessarily if they approved it, but if I'm being perceived. Whereas when I'm really self-confident in something, perception doesn't even factor into what I'm doing,
I
right? There's
think
no
that's
thought about the
healthy.
thought. Yeah.
That is healthy self-confidence, healthy confidence when you're not even thinking about it. You're just like, I'm going to do this thing, right? But I think when we are trying to, it's like kind of what we were talking about with Moxie, like how do you try to get it back? So like if you're trying to be confident or have self-confidence because you keep hearing about it, like that's sort of where you go. You try and remember when you did accomplish something, you succeeded at something, and then you reenact that emotion inside of
Or
yourself.
you rally yourself, you got this, you can do this, and here's why you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. One, I feel like, so would you consider yourself generally a confident person?
Depends on the area of life.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah.
Self-confidence is also something for me that I can muster it up, or that whole fake it till you make it concept that we talked about. And if I can't, that to me is this isn't in line with your values or your goals, or something else is wrong if you can't
Wow.
fake it,
That's,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
areas for me where it's like some of it's like maybe I shouldn't be faking it till I make it, right? Like maybe I should be telling somebody I don't know what I'm doing, right? Or like reaching out and asking
Yeah.
for confirmation, when it comes to work or something formal.
Mhm.
Um
And honestly, confidence shouldn't um like confidence isn't over knowledge, right? You
right.
still have to know what you're doing. You can't just say I'm super confident in making this baked Alaska and you've never attempted baking before. I mean, you have to know something about something.
Yeah.
You disagree?
I think there are a lot of people who get lucky. that sometimes all you self-confidence is more the motivator just to do it, whereas people without self-confidence will never know whether or not they would have been successful because they didn't even try.
Well, I agree with you there. And
There's
so
a
that's,
balance.
yeah, that's one of those things then that I kind of want to talk about. Like, because for me, as soon as I hear how to be more self-confident, I'm just like, oh, go back past that. I feel like we've just been inundated by, like Tony Robbins and even Oprah. You think of like self-confidence is for them. They can do anything. They're good at everything. Well, actually, I have a visceral reaction when I hear the name Tony Robbins, but I think that he exudes confidence.
I love Oprah. And I
Yes.
agree, there's many of areas where she exudes self-confidence. But these people and the level of power that they have in their
Mm-hmm.
circle and in their life and what they're doing negates my version of me being able to drum up self-confidence for myself,
Exactly. It's
right?
not real life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That of course Oprah's going to presume she can be able to do something. She has a team of people to make sure it gets done well. And she has a bunch of people who aren't going to tell her no. I can't walk into my office with that kind of self-confidence and expect similar results.
Right. Right. And so I feel like people, like, let's just back up from the whole self-confidence thing for a second
Okay.
and get it down to reality, right? Here is the reality of what it could mean for you. Maybe instead of talking about self-confidence, like I said to you, I was like, Moxie is the same as self-confidence. And you're like, no, it's not.
I mean,
So
it might be a component to be noxious.
and yes, I do think that it could be a component of confidence. But yeah, I now see where it is a little bit different, but I still think, okay, maybe think of a different, maybe let's think of it in just a different way. Like, do, so like, do you think true self-confidence even exists? Just like in a vacuum?
Yes.
Okay. Is it tied to other people, what other people think of you, or for you, it's not?
Well, other people are a surefire way to squash self-confidence if I was wrong with whatever I was going into, but it's
Isn't
not
that the truth?
necessarily an ingredient in creating it in the first place. Does that make
Okay.
sense? I mean, you kind of get into a cyclical argument there.
Mhm.
But for me, the biggest precipice for self-confidence is experience. And so
Yes.
then, yes, to some degree, other people probably at some point have either encouraged or discouraged whatever I was gaining experience.
Right. Because in order to have the experience, you had to have had to try
Had to do
something.
something.
You had to do something. And so if someone
Self-confidence
was
is tied.
encouraging you,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
Well, self-confidence is tied to behavior, past, current, and future behavior.
Okay.
You can't be confident necessarily in something that you haven't done before.
I think you can have, so I feel like there's like a confidence, like there's a general air of confidence, right? Some people, I feel like I can present confidently. I think I can present myself as someone who is confident in their abilities without necessarily really like in my own being. I'm like, how the hell am I going to do this? But I'll present myself as confident.
Confidence in terms of like experiences and behaviors is not necessarily tied to success, but how you were able to act or react within it. So when I think of the most ingrained, self-confident person I've ever met, I think of a 2-year-old trying something they've never done before. And boy, do they not need your help one bit. I got this. I do it. I do it. And I love that kind of mentality and like try and have that in new things, because fail fast, fail often, right? Like
Yeah.
to a certain degree, you know, be aware of consequences, but you can survive a failure and still be confident, right?
Oh, I think it would actually, surviving the failure and coming back and learning something from it would make you more confident. I feel like then you're like, what's the worst that could happen? I've already failed at this thing and I'm fine, right?
But some people don't see it that way. They absolutely don't ever want to experience the feeling that came with the failure again. And so they avoid, right? You know, I think of one of our past episodes. A lot of people are like that with love. A lot of people are like that with zodiac signs. Like how many of us just, it took one person to like make us hate a certain zodiac sign for all just one experience with the Gemini, and you're like, that's it. All Geminis are rotten. There are millions of Geminis in the world. Like, what the heck, right? Like, so it's not necessarily, when I say like experience is like what the experience isn't tied to the success. It's not that I have done this before and I did it well. It's not that I've done the same thing before, but this accumulation of experiences in our life that have given me my personality, given me the ability to react, to know what to do. That's what I feel like drives self-confidence.
Yeah. I feel for me, the longer I wait, like if I've decided I want to try something, if I wait and think about it, the less confident I get about it.
Why? What's that internal conversation?
Then it starts to become, well, why do you want to do that? That seems stupid. What is that going to do for you? Why? What if this thing happens? What if that thing happens? It seemed like you're not well, it's not well thought out enough. But if I decide to do something and then just do it, no matter the outcome, whether it was deemed a success or not, that does build confidence in me to then try it again and again and again.
It's an old adage of start where you are with what you got, right? Like, don't wait until you're an amazing YouTuber to put a video on YouTube. Like, figure it out while you learn, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
But
go ahead.
So it sounds like when you have a lot of time, you just start questioning, right? Like there's just so much unknowns and you just start going through all of it. I'm a natural analyzer.
Yes.
That's always a part of everything I do. And that actually gives me comfort and gives me too much confidence to the point where if somebody questions me, I'm annoyed because of course I've thought that through, right? Like I'm here, but then I will have that moment like just before the presentation or just before the thing's going to launch or just before I go to that new class where I'm like, oh God, Tracy, what did you get us into?
What did you get us into?
There's just like that moment, like that, like those rides that shoot you to the top and then you drop down like an elevator falling or whatever. There is rides. That gut drop moment. Yeah. And then that's when you just got to be like, oh, we're fine. We've done it before. Like, what's the worst that can happen kind of a thing. And I feel like that kind of moxie, like that's what gives you the resilience. And I think that's what carries more self-confidence than anything is that you've had those moments of self-doubt and you're like, oh, fuck it. Like I'm doing it anyways.
Absolutely. Like it's not, I feel like you just hit on something spectacular. Self-confidence does not mean you don't have self-doubt.
Exactly.
It's just like being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It's just like that. Right.
Yeah. You show up scared, right?
It
like
just
you
meant
show
that
up anyways.
Took the step towards it. That's
and
all it means.
I think that's why it's so easy to view other people's self-confidence as in a negative light, or on the flip side, give them too much credit. And it's like, oh God, I could never do that. Or I don't have what they have, because we presume that when people look self-confident, that they have all the answers, they don't have the doubt, that they have all the support, and that they're not going through like this internal war or whatever your mom called it. What did she call it?
The self-pity becomes our biggest indoor sport.
So maybe it's not a war, maybe this indoor sport that they're not participating in that sport, when all these successful people in the world all talk about how like, oh my God, yeah, I have those thoughts too. Right.
Yeah. I just saw I had written another quote of hers and I just want to talk about this too. She wrote, it is not necessarily confined to specific situations, but we can also be burdened with a general unfitness. Like, burdened with a general unfitness. When I had to read that 3 times before I was finally just like blown away by, yes, I feel like so many of us in one aspect of our life or another are burdened with a general unfitness, like I'm not good enough for whatever.
And there's so many things that we presume are innate human like character traits or personality traits. And we don't realize that they all took a lot of effort and process to get to, is kind of like a gym, right? And so, when I think of confidence, it's not a single thing. It's an amalgamation or whatever that word is of many, many things. And the whole is greater than the sum of its parts kind of a concept. But like, you have to work out those individual things. So like if confidence is the bodybuilding show, right? Like they didn't just show up and look like that. Not only did they work out certain muscle groups, they practice walking, they practice posing, they got a self-tan, right? Like they did all these other things. So like when you think of self-confidence, what are different things we could call it, or that like make it up, or other areas that people could break it down into smaller things, or see what they do already have.
Yeah. I mean, just think of, instead of self-confidence, self-daring, grit. We've talked about that before, like this grit. Yeah. Nerve.
Moxie. We've brought that up a whole lot.
Moxie. Self-belief. What if you just believed in yourself? What if you just trusted yourself or had faith in yourself?
Trust. That's something we like reserve for the external. Do I trust other people? Like, are their intentions and behaviors and words matching up? Do you trust yourself? And do you practice that? Like, what have your actions been showing you? And like, are you fit when it comes to trust, or do you maybe not trust yourself? Like that's such a component of self-confidence, is that trust in yourself piece.
And I don't think that people think about it like that. They just think of this, big word up here, confidence, and think it's like bestowed on special people.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
How much do you think whether or not we have self-confidence in any area is closely tied to how well we keep promises we make to ourselves.
Oh, God.
So I talk a lot about I talk about future Tracy, past Tracy, today Tracy, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But that's a little bit different. That's just like a fun way to think of my to-do list and like how much I expect of myself, right? Like this is more around the concepts that I bring up around intent versus behavior and how we tend to judge ourselves on intent and other people on behavior. But when it comes to trusting ourselves and when it comes to self-confidence, we're the only people in our lives that both know 100% of our intentions and 100% of our behaviors. And how hard are you on yourself for those not matching up? But then also, how aware are you of like, I do break all my promises to myself.
Yeah.
Who am I to have the audacity to think that I am going to be able to do this thing that I said I would or could do?
Right. But maybe then if you get that self-awareness, then it's like, okay, it's time to start trusting myself. So what's the first thing I could do to trust myself? Give yourself what? What were you going to say?
If you watch on YouTube, I just got really close to the microphone and Amy caught it. I was like, I'm going to wait to inhale to hear her thought. But if you want to hear my thought, I think the number one thing to do in this very moment is to forgive your past you for anything that they did to get up to this place, that those decisions have been made. Those actions are done. Forgive yourself first.
Yes.
And or apologize to yourself, right? Like have a full-blown trust circle. Just
wow. Okay. I love that because I think that we talk about forgiving ourselves a lot, but I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say apologize to yourself because you are the person who you let down, right? So the other day, because this is something we also talk about ad infinitum, is my relationship with finishing the book I'm writing and my confidence in doing it. But also just the fact, like, why do I keep breaking that promise to myself? Mm-hmm. And so while I was thinking about this show, I thought, well, what is it? Why aren't I doing this? And all of a sudden I just had this thought in my head, like, I dare you, Amy. I dare you to sit down and write another chapter.
Oh my God, you have your own 3, 2, 1, go. You have
It's exactly like yours. It's exactly like yours. I still do the 3, 2, 1 in the morning to get out of the bed. I still do.
I'm totally gonna double dog dare myself.
Yes. So I was like, I dare you. And I started writing again. So I started writing again, and that's exactly what I wrote down. That now all I want to say is like, I double dog dare you to do that.
Oh, I love that.
And honestly, like, I feel that with wanting to trust yourself, wanting to get rid of or try and get around self-doubt, wanting to forgive yourself, sometimes you just have to take an action.
Well, what I love about what's your driver to get you to take action is it's such a good self-awareness of yourself that you do have the moxie in you to be like, I don't turn down a dare. Like I absolutely as a child would look a peer dead in the eyes and is like, no one will make this more awkward than me right now because I'm not doing that. Like I don't want to do, and I can sit in this silence and awkwardness better than you, my friend. Like the tables have turned, but I know you. A dare would totally work. That's amazing.
Dare has always worked for me.
That's such a what a hack. What a good brain hack.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like maybe that would work for anyone. Just try it. Try daring yourself. I love the forgiving yourself, apologize to yourself, to move on. Just like that was past you. Now it's Thursday. It's
Friday. Move on.
Try something. I think if you're
doing this with their life, time to go.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you brought this up a little bit earlier, that if you see there's something and you don't feel confident in doing it, or you have a self-doubt, is it something you actually really do want to be doing? Like,
You
is
wanna-
it centered in your values, or is it somebody else that you're looking at?
Or is it a goal past you wanted and that's not
Yes.
you anymore?
Yes. Yes.
And I recommend our favorite response to anything in life that no longer serves us: light that shit on fire.
We love it.
Write it down, release it to the universe. And if it's like a physical thing and it's something you actually don't need, physically burn it, get rid of it. I just, as part of like spring cleaning or whatever, I came across some old hobbies, some old projects, some old school stuff, all this stuff. I felt so good releasing that, like getting it out of my
Nice.
house, and to be like, you know what? No, like this is not our path anymore.
Yeah.
Let's donate this. Like, we do not need these items anymore. Let us get this out. And it made space for the new.
I love that. And also, the last thing I'm just going to say is do what Tracy does. Ask other people, where do you see me showing up confidently? What do you think I'm good at? Like,
Oh, I love that.
yes, allow other people to fill your confidence or borrow their confidence. But I love that to have them reflect back to you where you look confident to them.
Yeah. If you're anything you're lacking in life, ask the people who you admire, who you like, who you look up to, or who you know like you.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
are the what you're wondering, what you're curious about, or how to fill that hole. And then might I also add, one of my favorite pastimes of aggressive friendship is randomly tell somebody, write them a note, drop an email, an instant message, a text, and be like, hey, I really admire how you're really confident in XYZ. And just put that out in the world.
Yes.
And just like a nice little warm fuzzy for somebody. Maybe they needed it, maybe they don't, maybe they can refer back to it later. But like,
honestly, too, not to do it just for yourself, but when you show kindness like that and show someone else, it makes you feel so much better as well.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, if this episode, if I could talk, that would be wonderful. And so if this spoke to you, because clearly I can't speak to you, share it with a friend. If you have time, give us some love on your preferred platform with a rate, review, and subscribe. You can always reach out to us via Instagram and YouTube under The Brightly Podcast, or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and confident day.